Welcome to Enabling Accessible Windows 11 Experiences. My name is Harjit Dhaliwal. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager for Cloud Endpoints.
And I'm Ben Watt, and I'm a Cloud Solution Architect and Accessibility Champion.
All right, great, Ben. It's good to see you. We've been doing a few of these together in the space of accessibility, something that you and I are both very passionate about. So let's dive in.
We are back again, but we're doing something quite different today. We're kind of going to really pull apart some of these elements in terms of, if you're an IT pro, how can you make sure that you actually enable these experiences for your users? So we'll actually take a look at how we can do that and give you a few tips to take away, hopefully, at the end of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to go under the hood, right, this time, right, and provide all of those tools and settings that IT pros need to make sure this is enabled and people can use it. So we're going to talk about deploying some speech packs to provide multiple languages for live captions and voice access. We're going to talk about deploying natural voices, how to enable voice access before sign-in, restricting access for settings and stuff like that, how not to block those things. And then we'll provide some final tips as well, like some takeaways and some call to actions.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Let's get stuck in.
All right.
Deploying speech packs. It's all about live captions and voice access with this section. So I thought it might be quite good just to give people a quick refresher of what those are before we have a look at how we can get these speech packs set up. So that first one is live captions. You and I have talked about this a lot, haven't we, in the past? Yeah. It's my favorite feature of Windows 11, that ability to do captions right there on the device. You can be completely offline. It can caption audio from a video, audio from a microphone. It's fantastic. We want to enable this, right? Yeah. We want to make sure our IT pros can make this available for our end users as well.
Yeah, and one of the easiest ways to turn it on is with a shortcut key, right? Windows Control L, and you get right into it.
Yeah, Windows Control L. I like to always make sure we mention the shortcuts when we're talking about these things, because I think you can never know enough keyboard shortcuts in Windows, and there's usually one for most of the accessibility features you'll find in Windows. So yeah, that's live captions. And voice access, similarly, we've got that shortcut key of Windows Control S. Voice access is a very different feature. That's all about being able to control your device with your voice. So that what I mean is not just dictating text, right, which we can do with voice typing as well, but actually opening apps, clicking on particular locations of the screen. We can even set up these days our own voice shortcuts so that when we say something, a whole bunch of macro commands can take place. It's a very powerful one as well.
Yeah, along with live captions, I think voice access is another favorite of mine. It's just phenomenal, like what you can do to control your computer just with your voice. It's amazing. And you've taught me a lot about this particular feature, so I've been excited ever since.
Yes, absolutely. So there's one thing that these two features have in common, and that's that they use what are called speech packs behind the scenes. So although both of these features can be used completely offline, we're not sending anything up to the cloud to process. It's all done there in the device. What we do need is the speech packs for a particular language for this to work. So what I thought I would do is kick off by just kind of running through what does that look like if we don't make them available. So this is kind of an experience. If I was on a new device and I've hit that Windows Control S for the first time, what you can see up on the top of the screen is it's saying, welcome to voice access. It's telling us that we want to allow access to the microphone and continue setting up. So that's fine. We want that. We want the user to know what it is that they're using when they first access it. But what you'll see here is that it's actually gone through a little bit of a percentage there. And what it did was it pulled down the right speech pack for the language that's in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the voice access guide. That's like this great feature that introduces you to it if you've never used it before. And I'm going to click up there on the right-hand side, and I'm going to click on language. And what you'll see is that there's a whole bunch of languages available for download. And the English United Kingdom, in my case, on my particular device, is already there and ready to go. It's pulled down that speech pack automatically. But let's say I want to maybe move to French, for example. I might click on that, and it's going to say, do we want to do this? I'm going to say yes, continue. And you'll see that it relatively quickly is going to download that second speech pack. But if I was completely offline, or if there was a problem with the store, or you were maybe doing something that's blocking this from being a possibility, then things are going to come to a screeching halt pretty quickly at this point, right? So you can see I've chosen that French language pack. Everything's kind of changed to French. And if I go back to languages, I can tell what languages are installed and what are not. They're up at the top, the ones that are already there from the speech pack, and there are others available on that list. So that's the kind of principle of how that would look in the voice access side of things. So that's obviously a perfect scenario. And it's a similar story if we use live captions. So if we were to jump over to live captions instead, so I would maybe on my device hit Windows Control L, you'll see that it knows that I've actually got the French language pack already installed, because remember I mentioned those speech packs actually are shared in most situations. We'll talk about situations where they're not. And live captions does it a little bit differently. So it'll show languages that are installed already in bold. And actually live caption supports quite a few more languages than voice access does. So as long as they are shared by both voice access and live captions, it will use the same speech pack, obviously, in that kind of situation. And there's obviously a language that we're missing here that I'm sure you want me to install, and that is, of course, English United States. So let's get that on this device as well, so that we've got 3 languages set up. And so I'm going to say yes, continue. And it's a very similar story to what voice access has, where it's going to say setting it up, and it's going to download that language file. So there we go, it's almost there. And so that has now got a 3rd language there. So at this point, we've installed effectively 2 speech packs over in voice access. We've done 1 in live captions, and we've now got 3 there that are showing in bold, ready to go. And it's a similar story if we were to jump back, just for the sake of really emphasizing this point, if we were to jump back to voice access, it's now going to show those same speech packs available and pre-installed. So we should now see that if I go to the settings in the top right, click languages, I've got French, English United States, and English United Kingdom there on that list. So let's take things a bit further, because what if we want to get those speech packs to our users ahead of time so that they don't actually need to download them themselves? We want to kind of get those in the hands of the users. Or perhaps we're going to have a device that's going to be offline quite often, and we want to get those distributed out. So there's some approaches we can take to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on an example device of a user where they've got some speech packs already installed. And what I can do is I can type in the command get appx package, and then I can say, anything that starts in Microsoft Windows.speech, and that's going to be those speech packs. And what I'm going to do so that it doesn't show me lots of other information I don't care about is I'm going to say select name and then package full name. So what you can see is it's showing each of those 3 speech packs that we just installed there. So I can quickly see what's there and what's not. And if I wanted to, I could also use remove appx package and use the package full name there to uninstall a speech pack as well if I wanted to from the command line. But the key thing that we actually need to be able to distribute these apps is what's called the packaged ID. So this app actually gets distributed from the store, these speech packs, but you won't find those if you were to just go into the store and search. You also won't find them if you go into Intune and add a store app and just enter the name. So we do need the product ID to be able to distribute this out. So what I'm going to do is I've jumped onto my brand new Copilot Plus PC. Got to get that in there. I know you're jealous that I just got a nice new device recently. So I'm on my Copilot Plus PC, and what I'm going to do is go into the store and go to downloads. And so what you can see here is because I've recently installed a speech pack, it's on the list here. And all I've got to do is click copy link. And then I can go to Notepad, for example, paste it in. And that's the bit I care about, is the package ID that I'm highlighting there. So the nice thing is with that ID, we can then take that elsewhere. Yeah, that's the only bit we need. Of course, in some cases, it might not be in that list. So what we could do, there's a few approaches we could take. We could go into apps and settings. We could uninstall it and reinstall it just so that it's in that recent downloads list, because sometimes you'll find downloads disappear off the bottom of the pile there. Or we could even go into registry edit, and we can go to local machine, software, Microsoft Windows, current version, install service, state, category cache. And once we're in that long path there, we can actually search for the speech pack in here. And what you'll find is there'll be two entries. If I search for windows.speech.fr here, it's going to find, first of all, one that mentions the package family name. We don't want that. What we want is the one that actually contains the product ID. So I'm going to say find next, and you'll see it's the same product ID that I just pulled out. That URL is there. So if for some reason you can't get it out of the store because it's not in that recent downloads list, or perhaps you've not got access to the store on that particular device, you can always jump into the registry and pull it out from there as well. So a few tips and tricks there. And then once we've done that, what we want to do in this case is jump over to Intune, and I'm going to go to apps. I'm going to go to Windows, and I'm going to add a new store app from this list. And whereas normally you might type in the name of the app itself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that package ID we talked about earlier, and I'm going to paste that in instead. So I'm going to hit Control V, paste that in, and obviously I'm going to get rid of everything else that I don't care about. All I care about is that ID here. And you'll see it matches. Speech pack, French, great. It's found what we expected there. And from there, it's pretty easy. I'm sure everybody's kind of used to this. In my case, I'm going to make sure the install behavior is set to system, because I don't want to wait for my users to have to wait at all to get this app to them, to get that speech pack installed. And in my case, I'm going to assign it to all devices, and I'm going to turn off toast notifications. Remember, with this, we're always trying to make sure that wherever possible, these accessibility features are available to users without them requesting it. So you might want to deploy this to all your devices, so that, because we don't know who is going to want to use these features necessarily. So it means it's pre-installed and ready to go on that device. So there we go, nice and relatively easy. Once you know how to get those package IDs, we can pull those into Intune and add all of the speech packs that we might need to distribute from there. So that's the kind of general idea. And you could also, if you had some other requirement of using maybe something other than Intune and your devices needed to have an offline install, we do make available, I've put an AKA link down there of aka.ms/windows/speech store packages. You can download the MSIX file for the English United States speech pack. The others aren't there at this time. And unfortunately, the speech packs don't support the WinGet download, which you can do with some store apps to get an offline copy. I will say that you will find community sites out there that may help you with that process. We'll not go into them here, but there are other ways to get it for other languages if you do some quality binging or Copilot tasking, I suppose, as well.
What about speech translation pack?
Yeah, glad you asked, actually, because I'm going to again mention I got a new Copilot Plus PC, Harjit. It's a great device, but one of the things it can do is that live captions gets an extra power, gets the ability to translate a whole range of languages to English US at this point. So what you'll see is if I open live captions for the first time, as I give you the privilege of seeing me opening it for the first time on my nice new device here, is that I can come here and it's going to say, do you want to set up live captions with translation? And by default, it's going to have that English United States there. And just as we saw earlier, there are other languages. But if I was to choose, like if I go to the settings cog and choose French, for example, so I'm going to just come here to settings. I'm going to go to change language. And choose any other language. So in this case, I'm going to say French. So I'll just scroll down here to that, which is right here. And it's going to warn me that actually we can't translate anything into French, but we can still caption with them. So those same speech packs, those are still going to work. But in terms of translation, that translation to English US, we have a separate translation pack for that. So what we can do is we can have a look at that. So if I was to, it's the same principle as before, it's just that, funnily enough, it's going to have a slightly different name. So I'm going to open this door again, my device, and I'm going to scroll all the way down, see if I can find this, and I'm going to choose Speech Translation Pack. So it's just got a slightly different name. You'll notice that it also highlights ARM64. So these devices are using ARM64 processor, but I can copy that link and it's the same principle as before. I'm going to copy that product ID and put it in. And if I run the command line, you'll see there's an extra entry here that looks a little bit different from the other ones that are installed on this device. And then it's nice and easy from there. I can just go into Intune, add the store app new. The only reason I'm showing this one again, by the way, is just to kind of call out that obviously we would distribute this only to our ARM-based devices. So I'm going to use a filter, but otherwise it's the same process we saw as before. So system behavior, And then the assignments, I'm going to say add all devices, but I'm going to use a filter this time and say only deploy this to my ARM-based devices. So I'm going to say include. I'm going to jump down all the way here to Windows ARM-based. CPU architecture equals ARM64. Select that and then distribute it out. So that'll just make sure that, again, that's pre-installed there, ready for that translation capability. Makes it nice and kind of easy from there as well. So if I was to talk about that Copilot plus PC experience, the other difference that we have here is that although, what we talked about earlier, where it's the same speech pack shared by voice access and live captions, that is a little bit different on a Copilot plus PC. So what you will find is that, yes, the voice access speech pack is the same, whatever the architecture of the device is. But because live captions is a little bit different on a Copilot plus PC, it also does actually have a different speech pack. So if you've got those devices in your organization, just be aware that you will find that there is an ARM64 speech pack if you want your users to have those pre-installed for live captions. Otherwise, you can use the same ones for voice access, but I just want to call that out. There's a little bit of a different experience there. And that device, by the way, that I was using, it has a lot of these pre-installed. So in my case, that Copilot plus PC was a Surface laptop device, and they are deployed with many of these speech packs pre-installed. So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here has been quite good practice. We already do that in those Surface devices as it happens. Well, let's have a quick look here at what that experience is going to be like then for the user. So we've done all these things as a brand new device, in this case, a nice cloud PC under Windows 365. They open voice access, and what they find is that when they come here to languages, we've pre-installed 4 languages for them. So I've taken the liberty of giving them 2 English languages. We've given them French, we've given them German as well, so they can jump between them without having to pre-install them. So you can see it's a kind of quicker experience. They're not having to install those speech packs for them. Exact same if we open live captions as well. They've got 4 languages in bold, which we'll see here, and it's ready to go for them to get started. So the next thing I think we should talk about is Narrator. That's the fantastic screen reader that we have built right in to Windows 11. It's all about perhaps somebody who's low vision or blind, where we can describe the things that are going on the screen. But much like with live captions voice access, there are some additional components that you might want to pre-install. So I've got this slide a little bit about what Narrator is. Again, there's a nice shortcut, Windows Control plus Enter. And we support a whole range of languages. But the really nice capability, if you think about that screen reader, it's talking to you all day, right? And the nice thing that we brought in Windows 11 that we've been gradually rolling out for more and more languages is what's called natural voices. And it's kind of what it sounds like is that that voice just is a little bit easier to listen to all day, every day as it's taking you through. But normally what a user's got to do is they've got to install that natural voice themselves. So we can do the same thing. We can pre-install some natural voices if we want to. So shall I show you just quickly what that looks like, just so that we've got a feel for that. So I'm going to go to settings. So I've hit Windows U, which takes me straight to the accessibility settings. And you'll see here under vision, I've got Narrator. So if I click on Narrator at the top section, it's got all the settings around turning it on and how do I want things to operate. But down here under Narrator's Voice, you'll see that I've got some languages pre-installed already. They would be there anyway. Those are not the new natural voices. But if I want to add a natural voice, I can click here to add. And right now it's showing me all the ones available for English. So there's English India here, UK, United States. I could come up here to the top and click choose a different language if I needed to see some of the other natural voices for there. And if I click on one of these, what you'll hear is...
Hello, my name is Sonia. I am a high-quality speech voice that you can use for your screen reading needs with your Narrator, which is a screen reader app built into Windows. You can use my voice while interacting and reading text with Narrator, and I hope you give me a try.
Hello, my name is Ryan. I am a high-quality speech voice that you can use for your screen reading needs.
Hello, my name is Sonia.
So you can see what I've done there is I've tried out some of the languages, picked one that I thought would work best for me in terms of the natural voice I want to be listening to, and I've installed one. And so what that's actually done there is it has brought down a voice pack instead. So same idea, I could come open a command line, get it to show me anything that starts with Microsoft Windows.voice, and we can see that it's installed Sonia, which is the person I chose to pick here for the natural voice. And from there, I'm not going to show that same process again, but it's the same idea where we could go into the store, into that product ID by copying the link, and then we can search for it and deploy it again to our devices so that we've got some of those natural languages pre-installed for our users as well.
All right, let's get into voice access.
Yeah, we love a bit of voice access, as we've kind of looked at a bit so far, but one of the features that we have there is that ability to have voice access kick in even before sign-in if we want to. So what the idea of this is that the user could go into settings, again, Windows U would take them straight to accessibility, and they could head into speech, and they could tick that tick box to say start voice access before they sign in. The problem is they need admin permissions to do that. And you can kind of understand why, because that's potentially something that's going to kick in at a fairly sensitive time where they've got the login details on the screen and they need to enter perhaps username and password. Now, ideally, I would say you would maybe want to have your device supporting something like Windows Hello for Business so that their face just takes them straight into the device and they're not entering any login details. But if you're comfortable with your users being able to do this, there are some ways we can do it, right? Because the idea is that, in terms of how it works, in terms of making you comfortable, I suppose, is that yes, they could dictate their PIN or password, and there is the potential that somebody might overhear that while they're doing so. But they also have the ability to say show keyboard, and it's going to bring up that virtual keyboard, which you can see on this slide. And then what it will do is put a number against each letter so that somebody overhearing it wouldn't actually necessarily know what the password is, because they're only going to be saying the numbers of the keys for that password. Still maybe a little bit laborious, but it gives them a way to get into that device using voice access. So if we want that to be available for our users, there's a registry key for that. We don't have a policy as such for it, but we can push out a registry key instead. And that registry key sits at HK local machine, software, Microsoft, Windows NT, current version accessibility. And all we've got to do is add a string value called configuration with a value of voice access. And so you could push that out as a remediation script from Intune, perhaps. You might push it out as an optional app that you only push out if a user requests this feature, maybe when it's gone through some security confirmation that you want that user to be able to do that. But it gives you a means to let them enable that without them having admin rights, which in a lot of organizations they wouldn't necessarily have.
We want to talk about the restricting access to settings without blocking accessibility features.
Again, we mentioned earlier, Windows U brings us to these new accessibility settings. The whole idea is we're making these settings easy to find and to get access to. But the problem is it kind of depends on the sector. Things like education, for example, they will maybe restrict what settings you get access to, or a situation where you've got a kiosk device. There's all different situations where you might be doing this. But if you limit access to settings, then you're going to potentially stop your users being able to use these accessibility features. So we've talked about lots of them have shortcut keys, right? So yes, you can pull up live captions, you can pull up text magnifier, you can do lots of things with shortcut keys without getting into the settings. There's some things you just can't do. You can't change how the captions are going to look, for example. You can't change what your mouse pointer is going to look like, and so on, unless we can get into the settings. So what I want to do is just kind of emphasize here that if you absolutely must restrict what settings your users have access to, here's a way you can at least make sure that the accessibility ones are available to them. And so assuming you make that settings app available to them in some shape or form, they could push, as I say, Windows U to get straight into this. You can use what's called the page visibility list. And so what you can do is you can say show only, and then there's a whole range of basically everything that you see under accessibility will have the old name, ease of access, and then a dash, and then the name of it. So I've dropped these into the bottom of this slide here. Some of these I've documented, in fact, all of them are documented as well in another table, but what I want to show you is on the right-hand side here. You'll see kind of what it looks like. If you only let them see this, they would just see the accessibility section, and then there's actually a couple of settings they would see under system as well. But it means that they can still control the things they need to be able to do their job, right? To be able to use the device the way they need to be able to, and not limit that possibility. This is kind of a table of what those look like. So under vision, we've got color filter ones, contrast themes, display, cursor, all these different areas. If you want your users to be able to get to them, and I would suggest that you do, then you want to have these on the list. And if you're ever unsure of exactly which one it's talking about, you can hit Windows R and you can do ms-settings : followed by that name, and it will actually open settings straight in that location. So it's a nice way of just verifying, is this the one I want to give my user access to? And we do document these. There is documentation available. The newest one here was actually in Windows 11 24H2, and later we added the capability to control certain hearing devices. So using Bluetooth LE audio, really nice, slick feature that's in some of the newer devices. And that has its own page. And so that one's called Ease of Access - Hearing Aids. We've just got that one documented as of today. So that's now out there on the docs. But it's a good one to call out as well because it wasn't there previously.
Yeah, these are amazing, great tips and under the hood settings there. So we got to close off real quick, 1 or 2 minutes here for the final tips, what we want for call out.
Yeah, I think we just want to give a few things to kind of take away that kind of give you some final things to be thinking of. There are many more examples we could give, of course, but I want to call out things like the Microsoft Adaptive Accessories that we have. If those are in your organization and these are devices that can be customized to all sorts of needs, then do make sure you deploy the Microsoft Accessory Center app. So again, it's a store app. You can search for that. You don't need to go looking for product IDs with that one. Just make sure you're distributing that to your users so that they can go in and customize it to their needs, make macros to take particular functions when they push particular buttons and so on, adjust the sensitivity. Another one, it's not strictly Windows and not strictly Intune, but I think it's worth just calling out that the Microsoft 365 apps, over in the Microsoft 365 apps Admin Center, we have an accessibility baseline. And that's all about just calling out certain settings and what we would recommend they are set to in order for the Microsoft 365 apps, those Office apps, to be able to use those accessibility features. And we always say, ideally, you want them to be on the current or the monthly enterprise channel so that the latest accessibility features are available to your users as well.
Absolutely. Close us out, my friend.
All we want to say is be an ally, right? Always try and consider, how you can help your users. Make sure that you're kind of basically making sure that they're not having to make special requests to get access to this side of things. So hopefully you will be thirsty for more. So we've got these kind of learn more links here in terms of some things you and I have done before together, some blog posts that we've got written that I've put out there, and some great resources here as well in terms of how you can find out more about the accessibility features in Windows 11.
All right, that was a great dive into under the hood on accessibility features, what you should do, how you should do it, and to help everyone, right? So I hope you enjoyed and you learned something new. Thank you for watching and stay in touch.
Thanks all.